Previously on Supa-Saturday's DrawAlong.
That's why I love to draw, and I wanna create Supa-Saturday, 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 DrawAlong.
What's up, everybody? What's up? Thanks again for tuning in to Supa-Saturday's DrawAlong with me, Jerry Hinds. And this has been great fun doing this. We're now on episode 17, I believe. No, sorry, episode 12. Now, why did I say episode 17? Well, this is Supa-Saturday's DrawAlong episode 12. And I've got 17 on the mind because earlier this morning, if you were awake, at 1 a.m., I was also part of the regular late night art attack with my partner in crime, Raul Miss You. And I got a brief recap here of what we got up to. So before we start today's draw along, where we pick up with the young man on the screen you see there, let's see what I got up to earlier today on late night art attack. One moment. Here we are. I didn't edit earlier. Here's what I got up to earlier on Late Night Art Attack.
Previously on Late Night Art Attack.
Awesome. Well, you'll notice there that Raul was drawing an extract from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I was finishing my Defenders versus Avengers piece. Basically, Defenders versus Iron Man. Which inspired me, actually, for what I want to do with the draw-along at the moment. So, let me bring that screen a bit bigger. So what's happening here, right? We've got a situation where it looks like if the Hulk has taken out Iron Man and his comrades from the Defenders are coming to his rescue. And I'm getting excited here. It's an early Sunday morning here in Singapore and I'm in a very good mood and my music is too loud. Will you please turn that down? Okay, that's a bit more civil. As we say in UK, that's a bit more civil. So yeah, I believe it's 6 p.m. Eastern if you're watching from the States. Here in Singapore, because your clocks went back, it gives me a bit more time to sleep. It's just gone 7 a.m. here. So I'm in a very good mood. I'm very excited about today's lesson. And when I had to draw Iron Man in this compromising pose, it reminded me of something of when I was a kid. And I'll tell you how much of a comic geek I was. There was a time when Iron Man was fighting a character named the Spy Master. And back when I was a kid, see this front cover here? See Iron Man getting blasted by the Spy Master. I think I was close to tears, if not actually crying when I saw this comic. Iron Man at this period of time was my favorite character. I've been through phases where different characters have been my favorite. And during this time, Iron Man was my favorite. But him under duress, look at the expression on his mask here. Here he's getting blasted. There's something about a character being under stress. that I really, really like. And this is Spy Master here, as drawn by the amazing Don Heck. So this has great significance for me. So I'm going to turn our exercise here into the Spy Master. Let's make this guy here the Spy Master. And I like this for a couple of reasons. We've drawn a face. Now, I do encourage my students to draw faces even if a character has a mask. We see here Spy Master, his face is completely covered. There. But this is called drawing through the object. And this gives us good proportions on the face because we've drawn what's actually underneath. Guessing where eyes are because the face is totally covered. As you become more experienced, this is definitely easier. But I'm telling you, you've got to be careful with doing that. Even with drawing a character like Iron Man, going straight to drawing the mask and not a face underneath, you might get those eyes in the wrong position. So hold on, I got a broken chair here, it keeps sinking. Let me please rise to the occasion and bring my chair up a bit higher. That's better. So let's put the costume of Spy Master onto our character. Let me just get my reference ready here. I've never drawn, I think I drew Spy Master when I was about, I think 6 or 7 years old. I've never drawn him since then. So let's check this. Let's check his costume out, shall we? Let me switch off my layer over here. Get my reference all queued up. Right. So I like to start from the feet area. So if you're drawing along at home, get your pencils and stylus at the ready. And before we start, a few warnings, right? What do I always say to you when you're sketching? Keep those pencils light. Indeed. If you're drawing traditionally, especially, keep those pencils light. And if you're drawing digitally, save. Save. Do not forget to save. So let's get on to business. Okay, I can see a few of you are watching. Thanks for tuning in. And I've got a comment here somewhere. Let's see if there's anything exciting. Have you ever drawn Marvel? Oh, Acres of Music, or movies, one of our regulars. Anything we can see here. Hello, and thanks for you like Cannonball Run. Thanks from Stacey. Yeah, Cannonball Run was a good movie. And have you ever drawn Marvel character box? If you mean the Indicia in the corner, I've kind of copied that on one of my own comics. Maybe I'll show you that later. A comic that I've done called Mega Man. And our regular Acres of Movies. Acres of Movies is always here. How are you today? I am very good, sir. Thank you once again for tuning in. But I must remember to always zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. So I want to start with, let me give you a full screen so you can see what's really going on, man. Good. Let's start with the boots. Let's start with the clutch booties. Right. So am I doing my time lapse? Let me just check. Time lapse. Yes, I'm recording. So I put, drawing digitally, I make another layer called costume. Of course, if you're drawing traditionally, you can't actually do that, but digitally, I do that. So I've got my pencil. Let me make it a bit smaller. I know like about 7 pixels. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my entire image bigger to fill the paper. Again, if you're working traditionally, you can't do that, of course. Not to worry. I'm making my character bigger. So when we come to put the detail, it's more high resolution. So let's start with the boots. What have you got going on here? What's going on, man? He's got a curvature in the boot. Now, remember when we did the construction? Center line. The highest part of the curve is by the center line. You can see my first guideline wasn't exactly on point. Whoops. Look at that very careless mistake. I drew on the wrong layer. And you call yourself a teacher boy? Costume. Will you please choose the right layer? There we are. My wife accuses me of perhaps having Tourette's syndrome. Shouting out things for no reason. Like, for whatever reason, I don't know why I did that. But just now when I shouted out, will you please choose the right layer? That actually comes from a song in the 1980s called Turn It Up. And one of the vocalists in there, he says, will you please turn that up? I think this song was by the Conway Brothers. Great track. 1980s pop. So here we are with the curvature of the boot. And this leg behind here is at a slight perspective. So the curvature is going to become a little bit more flat because we've got to counter the dip in the leg. There we go. Here's the next one. Doing a curve and the foreshortening is very tricky. There. Now that is by Master's Boots. He has got a sole. We've got a sole. Now looking at him, he's got his gun on his right hip. So over here, there's a gun. It just comes down to, it's about 2/3 of the length of his thigh, it looks like. He's leaning towards us, but this leg is leaning away from us. Let's put our contours on. Can you see the leg is leaning away from us here? So unless his gun is dangling, which I think it might be, it's still going to be facing downward. So we start with our basic shape. It's on his thigh. This thigh is slightly going away from us. So it's going to be somewhere perched on the edge here. And it's going to leave his thigh about here. And it comes up to above his shorts. And we can see a bit of the top. But we can see most of the thickness of the pouch from here. You see, I'm going for basic shape first. Top of the pouch is out. Then it comes in. I really love the way how Don Heck used to draw things. And in the pouch goes over, and we can see remnants of the gun inside. Looks like the back of the gun is here. There's some sort of node on the top. Putting the basic shape first. Then we can see the back of the gun just there. Such a subtle piece of detail he's included there. Marvelous. So let's zoom in and let's define this pouch a little bit more. So we've got the flap coming over the top here. It's going to come in. It's going to staple about there. It's got a button. Remember, we got to keep the perspective happening on this pouch. Never forget your perspective. Perspective is an artist's greatest friend. Then we've got the back coming up. There's a dip in the cloth to give this leather some feel. I'm going to start to erase my construction. And if you kept your pencils light, erasing that shouldn't be an issue. We come around the back. Now I'm going to make my underneath sketch, my detail sketch, a little bit lighter. Because I'm going to reaffirm my drawing as I go along. Good. We got our gun pouch comes down and it's got a bit of a design to it. taking into account the volume, okay, this is in fact a corner over here. Imagine there's a side to this pouch here, and we've got some contours here that go around the pouch. I am kind of following what Don Heck did, but not precisely. But more or less, as my daughter used to say when she was younger, like a similar. You know, I do get a great deal of amusement from when children are learning how to speak and they learn a new word. And my daughter went to nursery school one day and she learned about the word similar. And everything was like a similar. 20 years after, even my nephew, you're talking about back in the 1970s, things that my nephew would say back then still stick in my head to this day. Let me see the detail on this gun. That's in that pouch. There. Then we've actually got the edge of the pocket there. Nice. And if you keep your pencils light, you can erase that construction there. Nice. There's a slight thickness to this leaf of the pouch here. Good. I think we've got that in. Now it looks like he's got a strap that comes up just below his shorts. Now he's a classic superhero, man. He's got some pants outside. Yeah. I like it. He's got a strap coming over there. And glorious underpants on the side. On the underside. So let's put those pants in, man. I do miss my days of underpants on my characters. The glorious old days. Sounding like a true old man. All right, let me make my sketch a bit like that. First thing I want to do is I want to reaffirm my costume. Because remember, my costume's on a separate layer, okay? So I'm going to go over here, put some creases in for those boots. Put a bit more feeling into that sole of that shoe. Nice. Another classic for my daughter was, actually, she said this in later years. When something's, no, hang on. Was it my son that said this? I can't remember. There's a saying in this house, good for nice. Which just basically means nice. Good for nice. Now we get the lower leg. I was tempted to make this man more buff, but I must control myself. Every character that I draw, almost, is buff. So let's be a bit more conservative on this exercise. How about that? There. Putting some basic detail underneath. Good. Now that back leg. The back leg goes in. We don't have to do this. I do this for the ease of you guys at home. Later, when I switch off different layers, if my costume layer doesn't have the reaffirmed character behind, it's harder to demonstrate. But typically, I wouldn't have to do this. You know, I wouldn't have to go over the background form. But later, in the wrap-up, this is easier to follow. Okay, we reaffirm those legs, his pants. Nice. Now, Spy Master has a pretty big belt. Now he's leaning forward. He seems to have some pouches on it as well. He's leaning forward, and I can see it comes up to about his second set of abs from just below the belt line. Now look at our center line. This is going to help us get the shape correct. So I'm going to put a point there. Now we know the belt must come up to that. The belt rises a bit like the boots. Now I cannot stress to you enough the importance of what we're going to do now. We're foreshortening this belt as it wraps around his body. And do not forget the intensity of this curvature. If you curve this not enough, you will destroy your image. I might have mentioned on an earlier episode, when I look at portfolios of younger artists, the one thing that normally throws them off is foreshortening. And the next exercise that I'm going to do after this one is we're going to look more at foreshortening. We've got some nice foreshortening going on here with the body. There's a twist in the body as well. So this part over here goes up. Now here's the bottom of the belt. And the bottom of the belt rises as well to probably where the bottom of the abs would be. So we get the bottom of the belt in first. Now let's make the belt wrap around his body. It's a thick belt. Of course, from here, it's going to lose a certain amount of thickness, but let's wrap that belt around the body. Very important. And it comes up here, it's going to be right in front of the body with the leg on the outside. Good. We got a basic shape there. Now let's put in a slight thickness on that belt. We'll take it from above. Let me zoom in. Let me zoom in. Here's the thickness of that belt. And of course over here, we're going to see a total thickness of the belt. Good for nice. Now Spy Master has a shape and an S in the center of his belt. Now the shape goes something like this. Remember, we've got to take into account the lean of the body. So the belts come forward. So the shape is something like this. And it actually overshoots the rest of the belt. We're dealing with basic shapes here, okay? Remember that. These are basic shapes that we're putting in. And this pattern for the S goes up and beyond the rest of the belt. Let me put this in. Now we can get rid of that high part, that fundamental shape underneath. We drew through the object. Now we can put the thickness on this extra piece that's on top where the S is going to sit. Now we're going to draw this S at perspective. So again, give yourself a basic shape to draw your S within. There we go. And if the center of the S is at this trajectory as well, and you can divide. I remember as a kid, I was teaching myself lettering, and basically, if you're looking at each letter, you can generally split each letter into these divisions. You're going to have 3 horizontal and 3 vertical. Put a double tram line in to the horizontals And in here, you can fit the letter A goes there, or an S, an S will occupy there, there. See, that's an S. You'll find that you can make every letter from 9 divisions. It works quite well for numbers as well. So what I do is select, in here, I got my center lines, and I'm going to roughly divide this up into 9. You help me craft this X. Our center line tells us that center 3 will go across here. Good. So now the curve of the S is going to come up here, down here, go across the center here, down. Remember, you've got to take into account the perspective. So the S gets less dense as it goes down the body. Good. I'm going to raise the center just a little bit. Now, of course, working digitally, I could type in the letter S and distort it, but I'm not that kind of guy. Good. Now, I kept my pencils light. So now we can erase away our construction. I'm really trying to get the effect of the top of the S being bigger than the bottom to force the lean of that body. Good. Now he's got some circles and a couple of pouches either side. Now the circles look quite bulbous. So again, this is that perspective, okay? So the best thing to do is draw a couple of rectangles at the perspective you want, then fill in the corners to get the slant of the perspective. And as I said, they're bulbous, so now we can extrude that shape. And we get rid of our construction, and the same the other side. Start off with a rectangle. That's going to help you get your trajectories correct. Now round the corners, and we know that it's bulbous, so it protrudes. There's our 2 bulbous decorations. And it's got a couple of pockets either side. But actually, I can only see one on one side. But I'm just going to give him 2, one either side. Now the pockets are here. So we draw the cube. From there, we're going to see the side of one pocket. From here, we're going to see the top of the pocket, correct? And that's the front of the pocket. They're not very big, these pockets. And there's a flap. Same the other side. From this angle, we're going to see the side of the pocket. It's going to go around the form. There's the front of the pocket. And the flap. Good. Now we drew through the object, and now we can remove that belt from behind. And the same on the other side. If you follow my instruction, if you're drawing traditionally and kept those pencils light, all should be well. And the final piece of the belt that is interesting is, in fact, reconstructed. Remember I said shapes rule. The true shape of the belt now is a spike that goes up like this. We put in a basic shape to make all of this easier to manage. There's a spike that comes down, then it goes up under the belt. So there and there. So now we can get rid of this construction. That curve of the belt gave us the fundamental shape of the belt. Now we get rid of that construction. And this is the shape of Spy Master's belt. Taking into account the perspective, it's quite brutal. Nice. Now he's got classic shorts. So let's put some creases in there, shall we? Now let's look at his body. Let's look at his chest wear. He's got a big circle on his chest with a knife going through it. We'll do that first. So again, you got a big circle. Draw a square at perspective first and put the circle in after. So looking at the tilt in the body, there, and it comes down to just below his chest. There. Keep the verticals, your trajectories on track. There. There's our basic shape to put the circle of his costume in. So give yourself a marker at the top, get the halfway point. I call these arc markers. And that one on the center line, of course. Now we can join these up. We connect up the arcs, and this will help us get the perspective on the costume circle within the shape of the circle. How lovely. Now let's get rid of our construction square. Now, if you've been tuning in for a while, you would know that I'm in a constant battle with myself to not speak too fast, because I do have a tendency to speak rather quickly. Now, he's got a knife going through the center of the circle. What a vicious logo. You can tell our man is a bad man. He's got a knife as an icon. It goes just beyond the circle. So as I was saying, I'm here constantly keeping myself in check. I do not speak too quickly. And sometimes I get rather excited and I can tell, hey, slow down, boy. You're talking a bit fast. So then I have to check myself. There's that knife icon. Now the blade will sink into the handle guard. We drew through the object. So now we can get rid of the construction behind. Because I trust all you artists at home drawing traditionally that you listen to Teacher Jerome. You listen to me. I hope. Don't let me down. You listen to me and keep those pencils light. That's exactly what you did. And for those of you drawing digitally, save. Jolly good. Nice. Now in the circle, he's got a pattern. A crosshatch pattern. So again, we're trying to take into account the curvature of the body as we draw these decoration lines. Lovely. How lovely. And there it's a crosshatch pattern. Now you notice I'm bending these lines as well to harmonize with the curve of the body. Reminds me a bit of when you draw Spider-Man. When you draw his webbing, you must make sure that you curve the webbing to hug his body. Let's just reaffirm our man's body here. I'm going to take his rib cage out just a little bit more. Yes. I'm the buff master. Everything's buff. Superheroes, man. So ribs going in here. Now let's check out what else is happening with that man's costume. Now his chest is covered. So we don't have to put that chest detail in. No. His costume. Oh, this is such a classic. I love when costumes come down the front like this. The pattern comes down the front and then goes over the arm, similar to the Spider-Man costume. So it comes down here. And one of my favorite costumes as well, Captain Marvel. Gonna come down here. I'm such a Silver and Bronze Age. Living in the past. What a man. Hold on, I drew that wrong. It does not go. You see, I'm getting too excited here. I'm going to do the Spider-Man costume. But this man does not have the Spider-Man costume. Spy-Master has his own costume. It stops a bit short. About there. Then it curls again. Then it goes to the shoulder. It goes over that shoulder nicely to where the bicep meets the tricep. There. Now that is another reason why I chose this costume. Do I love me some Silver and Bronze Age costume design? Lovely. And it comes over here. All the way over there. I'm so busy talking and entertaining myself. I'm drawing things here that I'm not even meant to be there. Let's reaffirm that bicep. Let's take it over in the other direction. It's gonna come here. Now we've got to change the trajectory here in a moment, okay? I'm going for the basic shape. Basic shapes rule. It's aiming. You can see it's saving recovery. I'm using Clip Studio Paint, and I'm not sure if the program bombs, but it always does a backup. Actually, no, it's not bombing. What it is, it's saving a backup in case something goes wrong. If you're using Clip Studio Paint and you ever lose a file, you can go into the system folder and find an older version of your work. It does backup saves all the time. Very clever. Now his costume comes on the back of the arm and it's bulbous. It's a curve here, then it goes to the glove. So now we have to intensify that curve, the one that comes down the shoulder muscle. There, suddenly it intensifies. And the outer curve of the costume comes down the outer arm. Now the angle I've got here is not the best. No, it looks like, oh man, I love this costume so much. It comes down a bit of the forearm. Actually, it comes quite far down the forearm. Gloves are not longest. See the contour? That's telling me how to end that glove. Get the curvature in there. To the glove, for my second contour, I normally do 3 contours. So this glove is about here. Then it joins the pattern there. Let's reaffirm beneath anatomy. Oh, lovely. I'm going to check to see if any of you have sent in any messages in a moment. Let's get past this. Good. I'll put a few creases here for the wrist. And he's got some circles around his glove. Oh yeah, man, I forgot them. Yeah. He's got these circles. So I'm gonna make his glove a bit lower, below the second contour. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. His glove is a bit lower than I put it. So we bring this down here. Let's see if anybody's Acres of Movies always ask film questions. Tim Robbins or Richard Gere? I'm gonna have to go for Tim Robbins. Tim Robbins, very underestimated actor. I'm just gonna thicken up his. I'm sorry, I can't help making characters buff, you know. It's a mental illness. It's called superhero. We drop it in the back of the hand. And putting a few creases here. Costume. As I mentioned, there's a bit more detail on the glove. He's got some ovals on his. I've got a raised index finger. Whenever I draw clenched fists, I like to raise the index finger. Gives it a vibe. Gives it a certain kind of vibe. Level vibes. Nice. Now, he's got some circles on his gloves. What they do is, the circles, again, you've got to plot the shape of these. Actually, they're not circles, they're ovals. And they go precisely across where the line of the glove would be. So I'm going to put one right on the juncture here. I'm going to put one in the middle of the arm. And we just see the remnants of one as it goes around the back. So it's an oval. Now I'm not drawing my square, so I get trajectories right. I think we can guess an oval from here. Should I make it bigger? Nah, that's big enough. No. Make it bigger. Live dangerous, boy. There we go. I would love to speak to some of these artists from yesteryear. I'm going to move this one to the inner arm and ask them what their inspirations are for these different decorations on their characters. I think I was a naughty boy there. I didn't construct these ovals. I just drew them at perspective. And that's a bit naughty. If you're drawing along with me at home, you know, I should show you, okay, what I'm going to do is, and the other oval will in fact, looking at the distance of that, you might see the edge of it, but it's gone behind already. Okay, I'm going to construct this oval like we did the circle, so we get it at perspective. So what you do, it's easiest to draw a square. It's equal distance either side of the glove. Once you've got, so not square, rectangle. Once you've got that, you put a marker at the halfway point and at the top and the bottom halfway point. Now you can join those up with arcs. Remember, this is how you draw wheels at perspective. Okay? And then you get rid of the construction. Now we know that oval is at the right perspective as compared to that part of the arm. Now I did make my ovals bigger, so I'm just going to enlarge that slightly. The oval looks correct. So just basically draw around it to enlarge it. That'll do. That'll do nicely. There. And now we get rid of the construction. And I'm going to construct the other one. So there's another one on the inner arm in here. So to make sure it's the right size, take yourself a guideline around. Follow your trajectory. If you've got your construction trajectories there, shouldn't be a problem. And let's see the distance. The distance is about the width of one oval. So imagine the width of that again. Then we know this next one is going to start about here. The vertical there and the vertical here. Good. We put in our markers. Top, center, side, side. Now we drop in what's called the tangents to join up the oval. There. Now we can get rid of the construction inside. Our tram lines that gave us a size. And you can see this one, as it goes behind, gives way to perspective as well. Slightly smaller. Good. That's his gloves and his torso going in. So how's the chest area? He's got more ovals going around his collarbone. So where's his collarbone? Here we've sketched the collar underneath. So let's go for a couple of tram lines to give us a trajectory of how to draw these ovals. We use the collarbone as a guide. I'm going to put some tram lines either side of the collarbone. There. And he's got one oval near the side of his neck and another oval as it goes over his lats. So there's a guide for the collarbone and it's going over his lats. So we've got to take our guide tram line over his lats as well. There. Remember, keep those pencils light. Keep those pencils light, boy. So the tram line, in effect, goes up and over here. And what's interesting about these ovals that we're drawing is that they're horizontal ovals. They go across the body. So we've got the tram line. Let's put in a couple of rectangles so we get the trajectory correct. Lines up with the neck. Now drop that in there. Line up with the neck the other side. Keep it equidistant from the center of the collarbone. There, 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 there. Drop in another rectangle here. Then one going up the side. So again, let's go for about the width of one of the circles. Put one there and another one here. A tram line there, perhaps a little bit thick. Let's reduce that, shall we? Yes. So now we put in, now as I said, these are perpendicular to the body. So we put in our markers and now we can drop in our oval as it is near his collarbone. Now there will be dips in the collarbone here and all that, but I'm not going to get that pedantic. Here's another oval. We put the oval in this one. Marker, marker, marker. Now drop in the tangents. Now, from the angle that I'm picking up here, I'm not sure if there's any more going around the back of his. I'm going to assume that there's some more going over the back. I'm going to draw. There, there. I'm going to make our ovals are going over the back of him as well. See maybe the edge of one there. Now I can get rid of my construction. Get rid of my tram lines. If you kept those pencils light and you're drawing traditionally, shouldn't be too much of a problem. But construction rules. Construction rules. Good. If you're drawing digitally, it shouldn't be a problem. Of course, we could have had a separate layer for the construction, which would mean that we didn't even have to erase that then. So let's drop in the detail on the underlying anatomy, which reaffirm his muscles, neck sinews, collarbone. With decoration on costumes, you don't generally draw that detail into patterns. There, nice. So now we come to the head. If you're working digitally, please don't forget.
Save.
Now the mask, okay, it covers the head and it's got a pattern. So let's get the pattern trajectories going. Now he's got a tight mask, so it clasps around his ears. So his ears will be pushed against his head. So where you would normally see the ears, if you've got a very tight mask, it's going to squash your ears into your head. So the first thing you can drop in is the bulge of where the ears would be, which is there, and they're going to be compressed. It's going to come back in here. Getting the chin line, we can reaffirm that immediately. There's nothing sticking out of the mask down here. So the first thing we can look at as well is his head. It's a complete mask, so it covers the head. So the volume of the hair is going to be compressed, similar to that of something like, say, Spider-Man. Now, because we drew through the object, we know where the eyes are. And he's got spider-like eyes, I suppose, because Spider-Man-like eyes. So we put in the shape over the eye. There we go. That's the basic eye shape going in. His nose is completely covered, but it's quite skeletal-like. And again, in true Silver Age comic fashion, now he's quite bestial, okay? His nose is raised, and it has the pattern of a skull. And for whatever reason, we can see his mouth. We can see an imprint of the mouth through the mask. Now from the mask, it comes down the side of his nose and up the side of his head. It meets right under the eye. So follow the contour of the face. It's going to come down here. Then it goes up the side. Follow, it goes just below the jawline, in fact. Up beyond the eye. And it actually, oh, wait a minute, he's got some sort of like eyebrow pattern. There's an eyebrow pattern that follows the costume eye. Oh man, these guys, their costume designs are so nice. I never noticed that before. It's actually, it's not. It's a nefarious pattern. it goes up at the edge, which makes it even more ominous. And the pattern goes just beyond, and it meets that line there. So down the inside of the nose, outside the mouth, just under the jawline, and then up the sides. Good. All right. There's our pattern. And he's got a very strong beam on the top of his head. Now, this is why we draw contours. You can see where his hairline is. And from the costume design, let's take a costume line where his hairline would be, and of course take the trajectory into account. See there, where the sides of the head are now going up more. Then comes the elaborate detail of his head beam. Remember the image I showed you earlier? He was blasting Iron Man with like a head beam. So what happens is, let's go for our basic shapes again. There's a dip in the center. And about halfway across, just before you would get to the corners of the head, there are a couple of nodes. There and there. How are we doing for time? I'm here for an hour and a half. Okay, we still got half an hour. Jolly good. So my idea for this image is we're going to draw all the costume, etc., etc. Then we're going to render it and ink it and color it over the coming weeks. Good. Now from here, there's a curve. And this curve seems to have, from this, I can't really tell from this angle, but I think it might protrude. So the first thing I'm going to do is give myself a marker. Then I'm going to join up my tangents. Whoops, that's not really a curve, is it? Concentrate, boy. There. That's fundamentally correct. Then under here, we got 1, 2, 3 circles. So we've got one circle here. This is good practice. One of the most important shape, I would say, in existence is, of course, a circle. It is the shape of Mother Earth. It's just one of those universal shapes. I would say what comes second to a circle is a square. They'll measure out. I want one there and I want another circle here. So we take this circle over, down the other side. Remember, see the way we're sketching? We're building the lines up. And we're keeping those pencils light. Jolly good. There. Now you can see here, I've cheated a bit. Not cheated, drawn badly. This curve was meant to meet the outside of the node. So we open this up a bit more. That's better. Let me bring this one down here and down here. Good. We've got our curves in. Now the node goes up the side and closes the circle. Some detail here from Mr. Don Heck, the master. We get rid of the construction in here. 2 clips come up the side. I call them clips. Small center in the center circle. And there seems to be a strap coming down the front. Now remember, it's coming from the back. So if it comes towards us, it should get bigger. Not one size. Show the depth of the head. Let it become bigger as it comes towards us. Then what happens is there's a band there. There's a band there, and we get rid of that detail underneath. We drew through the object. We get rid of this underneath here. We drew through the object. It is easier to draw a generic shape than going for lots of detail at the start. You're giving yourself extra work. Now we can put a bit of feeling into where that meets. Good. And there are patterns in this second circle. There. That's a Spy Master's mask. Now we keep the expression going. And we put contours in. We keep the contours of the face in. And even the head. And that does it for the costume. So I think I've reaffirmed all of my detail. I can now switch off my center line, my contour, and my detail. And now we should have the Spy Master by him. Oh, sorry, I forgot his fist. I forgot to render his fist. Will you please pay attention, boy? Raise the index finger. Remember I mentioned that earlier? Jolly good. Keep the other fingers more flat. And little finger. Put pinky on the end. Knuckles. I could tell I drew this fast. I didn't even line up my knuckles. Now, what kind of man doesn't line up his knuckles? It's an extreme disaster. So that will give us our costume. So I'm going to switch off the detail. See what we look like. Okay, so here we have Spy Master. Let's go from the feet. Boots, torso, and that menacing face. He's, as I said, he scared me when I was a kid. He really did. I'm going to get rid of a bit more of the construction. You can see here on the belt, when we built up that letter S. Bit of a clean up. Remember, keep your pencils light. Couldn't be too much of a problem if you did. So now, we're going to do some spotting. We're going to put in some shading. Now, Spy Master has one of those costumes where some of it is very dark. It's a yellow and blue costume, possibly my favorite color combination, yellow and blue. And the yellow parts are bright rendering. His boots are green. He's got green on him as well. Oh, I forgot something. He's got tasers on the back of his forearm. Hold on. Sorry. On the back of his forearm, there are tasers. It falls just, it should fall right on the back of the arm here. So again, we start with a basic shape. Now they look quite flat, but I'm going to, whoops, that's the wrong tool. I started inking with a pen, which I do sometimes if I want a sharper line. But I want to keep the pencil vibe going. Let me erase that piece of sinew behind. Now there's like a taser on the back of the arm. So what we do is we start with a basic shape. I'm just going to give it a slight thickness like this. Curve it off a bit. Now, the image I'm working from, the reference on this costume, is not so detailed. I've taken creative license to make that taser look like that. Sorry. Got to raise the back a bit as well. Good. And it's on the outer forearm. Is it coming on the back of the fist? Towards the back of the fist? So here, we're probably only going to see it something like this. We're probably not going to see much more than that from that angle. A little bit shorter. There. Good. So what I'm going to do is, I'm actually going to just, I'm sorry, I can't help it. I'm just going to buff his legs up slightly. Just a little bit bigger. Couldn't resist. Take those calf muscles out a little bit more. My computer's stalling. It's because I'm doing the time lapse. That does take up a certain amount of resources. Okay, if you're following at home, you don't have to make your character more buff if you don't want to. If what you've done already looks good to you, stick with it. I'm just going to take out his thighs and calves a little bit more. In there, just slightly. Put a bit more of reach. I was thinking of finishing these pencils with more of an edgy style as well, but we can do that on another exercise on another day. There, that's better. So now we're going to start spotting. I'm going to take a light source from above, and we're going to start dropping some muscles into him. Okay? Whoops. As this leg goes forward, his thigh muscle should come out more. It's so scary when you're drawing at this size. You draw at this size here, and 1 or 2 millimeters can make such a difference to what it is you're drawing. It's quite a scary thought, to be honest. So, let us now start looking at some lighting. As I said, I'm going to take the lighting to come from the top. Oh, sorry, now that we've got a costume in, I can look at the anatomy a bit better. I think I need to take his chest out a bit more as well. I'm just going to take that bit of the chest out a bit more. Do the same with your drawing at home if you've done that. Which is going to affect the costume here slightly. This is why you keep your pencils light. As you look back at your image, you might see things that you think you can tweak. So we keep those pencils light. All right, good. We've got our character. So I'm on a separate layer. I'm going to put in what I call shading. And a light source is coming from above. So start with the legs. I'm going to put in a shadow here. Now when you're rendering, especially if you're drawing at a Comic Con, try to keep the discipline of your rendering going in one direction. Okay, don't render like this, and then like this, and then like that, unless it's very controlled. The nicer your pencils are rendered, the more money you're probably going to make. Now I'm going to put a shadow under the gun, and an accent that comes down the side. Your rendering, try to keep it at 30 to 40 degrees angle. You don't want to render exactly horizontal or exactly vertical. There's something to do with the frequency of our eyes that when things are exactly horizontal or vertical, it makes our eyes kind of go funny, you could say. My computer's behaving a bit odd. I'm spotting. Okay, there's no hatching yet. I'm looking at the black areas. I'm going to put a shadow behind the kneecap. There. Comes up into this muscle. Now I'm going to be adding hatching to this shortly. You'll find there's a lot of artists that don't bother with hatching. They just leave the spotting like this. Nothing wrong with that. My current comic that's on sale called Supercross, I'm going to run an ad for that later. It's part of an upcoming Kickstarter with Thunderzone Comics. And the way I drew Supercross is it has no hatching. It's all, in fact, it has no spotting. It only has spotting on the bad guys. All of the characters are just line work, and all of the shading comes from the coloring. Putting a shadow on the inner leg, and notice that gap of white between the key line and the black. That's what we call an accent. So the knee, put some shadow in the knee and lower leg. There we go. In fact, I've got a couple of exciting ads to run later, or trailers. One for the upcoming Kickstarter, as I mentioned. We've also got a trailer for the Ozzy Osbourne book that's on sale now at Fund My Comic from Madness Entertainment, from Madness Entertainment Group. The Ozzy Osbourne Tribute Book has images of Ozzy drawn by a lot of the guys here at Madness Entertainment Group. I have one image submission inside, which I'm very proud of. And a lot of the other great artists that you see here at Madness Entertainment Group, they've also got images inside the book as well. I'm going to put a shadow on this outer calf here. Now the Ozzy Tribute Book, as I mentioned, is on sale at funmycomic.com. And I also have a comic on sale, another comic on sale there called Maga Man. That's available at Fund My Comic. The new Kickstarter coming up from Thunderzone Comics though, that is on, well, that's on Kickstarter. Now I'm going to take some creative license here. I'm going to make this top part of the boot look a bit metallic. There. And his boots are of that dark texture as well. So the lower leg goes into a fold under. See the fold in the boots? There's that accent, that gap that we leave on the outside. Putting an accent here for more fold in the cloth. You notice all that rendering in one direction. My computer's stalling. That serves me right. I had an upgrade a few weeks ago, and if you were here, you may have heard me boasting about it. My upgrade, my computer's so fast, which it is, but now and again, I think it's during the backup that I mentioned about. See, it just stops rendering for no reason, and I think that might be the backup thing happening in the background. I'm going to make his boots have a quite rubbery appearance. So it's quite glaring. Remember, the light source is coming from above. Then we come to the shoe. And no, did I put any detail in here? Yee! I did put a bit of detail in here. I left it out. Naughty boy. Okay, on my costume, I put in a bit of detail. So if the light's coming from above, shadow's going to fall behind the foot. Put an accent here so we see the fold in the foot. Then the volume of the boot on the other side. We put a slight crease in here. The light comes across. The front of the foot is a bit more in the shadow. We got the sole, so we don't need an accent there. Now we just render this part. So I'm going to do one complete layer of spotting. This is called spotting. Then on another layer, we're going to practice doing some hatching. We'll go through a few exercises in that. Hatching is basically how you get from dark to light on a drawing in perfect black and white. And as I said, you don't have to hatch drawings. In fact, a lot of modern Western comics, I think to save time, a lot of the artists don't do any of this kind of old school spotting and hatching anymore. They go straight to color and they do all the shading with the coloring, like how I did my Supercross that I mentioned earlier. Just under here, I'm going to put in an accent. So this is one of Spy Master's legs spotted. Now this leg is behind. So it's going to be somewhat more in the darkness, you could say. So the first thing we go for is the inner leg. You know, because of the body above, your inner leg often has some degree of shadow thrown onto it. I'm going to throw the body going across here, accent here. Catches a bit of light there, accent outside. So we put the shadow under here. Then the outer knee is going to catch a little bit of light. Then the inner knee underneath, falls underneath. It's going to go into some darkness. So let's render this part. Now, as I'm talking through why I'm putting the blacks where I'm putting them, is we're basically we're navigating the fundamental shapes of the body. Now, anatomy is an endless subject. And of course, you can use references, but I'm, dare I say it, quite old school. I'm not overly concerned with 100% accuracy of anatomy. Of course, if you pull out a book with photographs, etc., you can get your anatomy 100% correct. But as I mentioned, and you probably guessed, I'm a very old school kind of superhero comic artist. And a major attraction for me is the style an artist uses. And this is up to personal interpretation. You have your fundamentals of anatomy, which are reasonably accurate. But you'll find that different artists over the years just have different ways of how they interpret detail. And this is what I most like about comic art. So being photorealistic isn't really my aim, let's say. But what I will say to you is, if you're on this journey of comic drawing, if a modern editor wants you to be photorealistic in your anatomy, then you have to rise to that occasion. You have to do it. I mean, if I take an assignment, if someone commissions me to do something with definitely accurate anatomy, I will do that. If you don't want to do that kind of work, then you don't take the assignment. But if someone says to me, I want this very realistic, then I will pay more attention to the way I construct the anatomy. Now this lower leg here, I'm going to put a lot of this into the darkness. I'm going to put the underside here into darkness. And I'm just going to, in the leg, let it catch a bit of light there, a bit of light here, put a shadow behind the leg here. Outer leg is away from the light. I put in a sinew here, and all of this lower part I put in because it's behind him. I'm going to drop in a large area of shadow there. So let's put in our rendering here. How are we doing for time? 8 minutes left. 8 minutes? Yes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to render the legs. We'll stop there. After I do the foot, we'll continue next week. Meanwhile, I'm going to have a bit of fun and show you a few trailers from some things we've got coming up. Publications, what have you. So remember, we put metal on this part of the boot decoration. And again, as it's in the shadows, the metal rendering here is a little bit more severe. Outer boot here, very much more in the darkness. We render, pencil all in one direction. And the cutting in, we go back and do afterwards. Cutting in is when you join up the edge. As I mentioned, if you're doing a commission at a Comic Con, or you just do a commission for a person, the nicer your pencils are rendered, the more happy they will be with the commission. So get used to rendering with some discipline, even when it's a larger area of black. Good. I'm going to put a shadow on the instep. I'm going to drop a shadow on the lower foot. Ooh, did I have a contour there? No, I didn't. You see that? It's doing the back up. Doing the back up, yeah. Got a few comments here. Roland T Drawings. 40 degree, always. He's talking about rendering. Good man, Roland. 40 degrees. What does Acres movie say? I think Carpool is an underrated family comedy. Have you ever drawn any movie storyboards or concept art? I only did commercials. I worked in advertising for over 30 years. So I've only worked on things like that. What's this say here? cheapviewersstreamboat.com, remove the space. I'm not quite sure what that means. That must be another stream. Oh, Raul's in the house? Correct, yes. Are you talking about rendering, Raul? Raul is my regular partner in crime here on Late Night Art Attack, which happens US Eastern Time, 1 a.m. on a Saturday morning. So I was here earlier this morning with Raul, and we were joined by Edwin, who's a regular. We're often joined by Christian as well, of Addicts, of the comic name Addicts. He wasn't around them this weekend though. So this foot is well behind and much more in the shadows. Yee, my pen is messing around. What's wrong with you, stylus boy? This show goes way too fast, you know. It's an hour and a half. I'm only 4 minutes away. Okay, let's see what we got. Let's see what you got. Okay, so we've got the legs spotted. Now, looking at this, we need to continue our shadow here slightly a bit more. Behind the leg there, and I'm just going to take this shadow up here a little bit more. Okay, so we started our rendering. We will render the rest of him next week, and we're going to get ready to do some inking and some coloring of by master as well. Nice. So I'm going to run a few trailers of stuff that we've got happening here. Do you want to see me? Is that better? I'm such a handsome young man. Oh, my chair is sinking again. I'm going down in the world. My poor chair, I've got to change my chair. It's dying. So thanks again for tuning in. My name is Jerry Hinds, and I've got a Kickstarter coming up with Thunderzone Comics. I'm going to run a trailer for that soon. And please do join me here again next week for the same time. We're going to continue with Spy Master, and join me here as well at 1 a.m. Eastern Time, Saturday, for Late Night Art Attack. And thanks a lot for tuning in, as always. And please do drop us a line you can find us on Facebook, Madness Entertainment Group. And please, any questions you have, or if there's anything you would like me to explore in this journey of drawing. We're here every week. Drawing is endless. You know, the amount of things that we can cover is infinite. I'm trying to choose the stuff that I knew helped me in my journey. So thanks once again for tuning in. I'm now going to run, as I said, a couple of trailers for things we've got going on, and myself personally. It's me, Jerome Hinds. I'm tuning out. But please stay tuned for our shameless plugs of what's going on, man. Of what's going on. Speak soon.
Ozzy, what are you doing? Come and have a look at this lovely book that was sent over.
You're rapping in the burning.
Oh, go on and spit the bat out your mouth. No one can understand you like that.
Say how 5 dentists and all.
Oh, well, that's not much better. Ozzy, why don't you sing to me? I can always understand you when you sing to me.
Fucking my brains. What is this my publisher sent me? Inked in black with art so sweet.
So what do you think? Do you like it?
Oh, Lord, yeah.
If you like stories about truth, honor, and justice, then you should check out MAGA Man. It is Donald Trump as many now see him, the defender of justice and a warrior for peace through strength. MAGA Man is an all-American style 22-page comic book, so get over to fundmycomic.com and support the culture of truth, honor, and justice. With MAGA Man, the most needed hero of all. MAGA Man.
Thunderzone Comics returns. 5 all-new comics, Sumo Boy, Weirdo, Marshall Strong, Big House Blues, and Supercross, plus a free How to Draw Characters from the Thunderzone bonus book. When you back all 5 new releases, the Kickstarter pre-launch campaign is live now.
Thunderzone Comics! Supa-Saturdays. 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 DrawAlong. Supa-Saturdays. 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 DrawAlong. I love heroes, no matter their age and no matter their size. I wanna be a hero, that's why I love to draw and I wanna create. Supa-Saturdays. 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 DrawAlong.
If you miss the live viewing of any Madness Entertainment Group production, you can find all our content on Roku or as a member of this channel. We'll see you next time on the Madness Entertainment